Have you ever tried to upload a lot of information to ChatGPT or any AI? Obviously you can't. This video is here to explain exactly how you can achieve it, uploading a lot of data, a lot of files, processing a lot of tasks all in one with no coding or no development needed. I'm going to show you how to use it using a platform called Make.com, which is an automation platform. And most importantly, I'm going to share my screen. And if you have any questions, I'll answer in the comments. So first of all, what is Make.com? Make.com is an automation platform which you can just connect different parts of your logic, different systems. For example, ChatGPT with your website, or with your files, or with your Google Drive, or with your Google Sheets. I already have an account, but you can register yourself with Make.com or check out the link in the description. I want to show you 3 examples so you can understand the concept, and I'll be making a ton more Make.com tutorials so you can understand it in more depth. But in short, you can learn it within an hour or 2, and you can make very basic concepts already work for you without much technical knowledge. The first example is the most simple one so you can understand exactly what I'm doing. I made a scenario, which is a flow, which is my logic, and this one basically says, I want you to use ChatGPT on the right-hand side, and I want you to tell me a joke, and I want you to run it and tell me a joke 50 times. Create 50 new jokes in this example. This is just a simple one. We're going to get to more complex ones very, very soon. What did I do? I clicked on plus and I added a module. I added something to my logic and I specified OpenAI create a completion. What is a completion? It is basically a prompt. You going to ChatGPT and asking something is a completion. That's how they call it. I clicked on it and I created a connection with ChatGPT. You need to use APIs, which is a way for you to authorize Make.com to use ChatGPT on your behalf using APIs. There is a fee for APIs. The more you use, the more you pay. And I will link to the pricing of ChatGPT and other AIs so you can see the pricing. But if you use it very little, it'll just be pennies at a time. What I did, I selected the method which says I want to run a prompt and which model do I want to run. ChatGPT and all of the AIs, Grok, Gemini, all of these, they have different models. Different models have different tasks. They are more expensive, less expensive. Some create images only, some create text, some are faster, some have reasoning and additional logic, and some are slower and cheaper. You need to select the one that you want. For example, if I go to ChatGPT, on the top left-hand side, I can select the model, and you need to try them out to see which one is fitting for you and which one gives the result or the output that you want. For example, one of the cheaper ones and the good ones for simple tasks is O4 Mini, but again, you'll have to experiment with the ones and they're changing all the time. So for example, I'm going here and I specified I want GPT 4.1 Mini, and I need to specify what do I want. In the messages, I want to be a user and I want to ask you to create a joke. For example, tell me a joke that's a one-liner with a random day of the week. I would specify the same thing as a user. I would specify here and click on enter. What I did is I finished that and I clicked on save. Let me show you how it runs, and it'll run 50 times with a repeater. How do you add a repeater? Add a module. I type in at the bottom, repeat, and it'll be under flow control repeater, and I just specified the same thing that I just did a second ago. If I click on run, it'll run and it'll ask ChatGPT 50 times to create a new joke. You can see here it runs 5 times 6, 7, 8. I will stop it and I'll show you exactly how it looks so you can see for the first time. It ran 11 times and the 12th time I stopped it in the middle. The first time, for example, as the input, I asked it, tell me a random joke. The output, which is the result, is Wednesday, halfway to the weekend, but still early enough to regret all the decisions. If I go to another one, for example, you can see here, why did Wednesday get jealous of Friday? Because Friday's run eating this week. Okay, not such a funny joke, but it is a new prompt and an output. Okay, so now that I tested it, I can run it again and again. This is a very simple example so you understand what's going on. And now I want to share with you more complex examples so you can actually do stuff with your information. Here I just created the joke, and the joke is in Make.com. It's not going to the real world. It's not going to Google Drive or to a website or to a spreadsheet or anything like that. So the second example I'm going to show you is an example of translating my video subtitles that are in English to Spanish. For our YouTube channel, we create a lot of videos and we always translate into English. Now I want to automatically translate into Spanish. What did I do first of all? I took all of my English subtitles and I put it in a folder called Subtitles and English in my Google Drive. And I put in this example 24, but you can also put 500 or 1,000 or whatever number you want. You can do in bulk. This video is here to show you how you can do things in bulk and not have restrictions or limitations in ChatGPT or Grok, Gemini, etc., etc. Okay, so I put them all right here. And what I did is I went to make.com and I specified and I told it, I want you to go to a specific folder in Google Drive, get all the files, download them, take the contents, put it in ChatGPT, translate them, and then make a new file and put them in the Spanish folder in Google Drive. This is a very common practice that I like to do on a lot of tasks. Go somewhere, get some information, manipulate it, create a new file, and put it somewhere. So let me show you exactly how that works. You would just be right-clicking next, 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 but I'll show you how I set it up. First of all, I created a new module for Google Drive, and I gave it authority. I allow make.com to access my Google Drive by clicking on Add and clicking Next, Next, Next. Then I selected where I put the source English files. I clicked on Select from the list, My Drive, and I specified the folder Subtitles and English, just like you can see here. My Drive, Subtitles, English, and I have all the files inside. Then I specified I want to retrieve all the files. And the next step, I clicked on Iterator. What is an iterator? I want you to run for every single specific file, one by one. I have 24 in this case. And I want you to do all of the rest of the flow. I want you to first download that file, get all of the contents of the file, what's inside, put it in a variable, which is basically a place to save the data. So later on, I can throw it to ChatGPT, and then I can create a file and save it on Google Drive. Let me show you how it works. So in Iterator, what I specify here is I specify the data I want to get from the step before. First of all, I got a list of all the files. So now I take it and I put inside the iterator the file ID. The file ID in the step before. Google Drive search for file folders. Google Drive search for file folders. I specify the file ID right here. And then I downloaded the file. How do I know to do that? It specifies file ID. So I just need to select it from the step I just got it from the iterator, and I have it right here, okay? The value. Then what I do is I read the file, which I downloaded already, and I put it in a place to save it. For example, I made a variable or a space called VTT text, which the translation file is called a VTT file in this case, and I put the data inside right here. Then what I did is I went to my AI. For example, I like to use OpenRouter, but you can use ChatGPT like we showed before. But OpenRouter is a system which you can connect to any AI. You can have Perplexity, Gemini, Grok, and anything in the future. And you just use one API key, which is one authorization, and you can connect to any system. I clicked on Add. I added some money to my account, and then I can use any system. And for example, I selected again, OpenAI, ChatGPT, but you can select a ton from the list. For example, you want to use Google's Gemini, or you want to use DeepSeek or any of these other AIs, and it updates all the time. So it's a nice way, instead of you having API keys for all these other AI systems, just have one, pay them directly OpenRouter, and you can connect to any. It's kind of a nice way to do it. So what did I do here? I gave it some rules, and this is a little bit more complex. The first thing I wanted to do before I asked it what I wanted, for example, this is the ask. The user is asking the prompt. It's asking for something. I gave it some rules. Just for example, you can do in the account, and I specified, before you do anything, I want to make sure that you know what your role is. Just like an employee in a company, they have a certain role. I'm sales, and I do sales for international, and I have this specialty. I told the AI, I want you to translate files. That's your only job. You should translate VTT files, and you should also have these rules. Make sure you have new lines every single translation part, and make sure you don't have double quotes, and make sure you do all of these different rules, okay? And then when you create a translation, I want to make sure that you always output it in this example format. It should always look like this. For example, I made a Spanish translation. And what I specified is, because this is the role, I specified this is the role called system. If you remember before, we used user. User is what do I want? System is what are you as a personality or as a system? What is your role? What are you doing in the company, for example? And then after that, I specified my ask. Here's the content of the file in English. please translate to Spanish. And what I did is I specified the variable right here, which is the contents of each file one by one, and run ChatGPT. And then the last step is I granted access to my Google Drive, and I specified I want you to put the result in subtitles Spanish subfolder with the following file name and the contents right here that was made from this step, which the AI created. Okay, I click here, and then you can see that the AI created it right here, and I can specify from the AI. So you always need to specify in your step, from the steps before, what data do you want to grab. For example, I want to use here choices, message, and the content itself right here. Okay, I specify, I click on save. You need to run it. Let's run it. Let's see what happens. So I click here on run, and now it'll run. It first got all of the list of all the files. Then it went one by one. You see it's on the first file, and then it downloaded the file successfully. Then it put the contents inside, and now it's running with ChatGPT to create the translation. When it finishes it, very soon it will create the file, and then it'll go back here and do the second file and do everything. And then it'll go back, do the third file until it finishes all the files, in this case 24 files. Okay? Once it finishes, you can run and you can check all of them. You can check them via the bubbles, for example, right here. You can see the output, or obviously you can check them in the folder that you asked. For example, I want to put it in the Spanish folder. Okay, so you can see I gave it a few seconds and now it already finished 2 files. It ran one time, it created the file, it ran the second time, now it's on the third time, it got the result, it's creating the file, and the fourth, etc., etc. I'm going to stop it right now and click on force stop, and you can see in the Spanish folder, if I refresh it, now my files exist and I actually have translations in Spanish. Obviously I want to verify it because AI is not 100% accurate, but in most cases, if you did the correct system prompt and user prompt, you will get good results as long as you define exactly what you want and you give it examples. Okay? Last one, we're going to give a third scenario. The third scenario is writing, for example, 2,000 articles for my blog, creating images for it, and then posting it on my website. For example, my website is using Shopify. This is very similar to what we had before, but I'll share a few additional details which might be important for you guys. Number one, I create the repeater. A repeater is something that will run many times. For example, I want to create 200 articles. I want to run this flow 200 times. I click on repeater 200 times, and then I create, first of all, ChatGPT. I created a module called ChatGPT. I allowed it to have authority with my APIs. I specified the model that I wanted, and I told it what I want it to behave and how I want it to behave. For example, the role system is before I tell it what I want to do, I specify you are an expert writer with 20 years of experience and you build Legos. You build especially fast builds of Legos, just for example, for this video. And then I specified what do I want. As a user, I wanted to ask, this is exactly what I want. Now you know you're a Lego builder and you build fast Legos. I want you to come up with a random idea for speed building. It should be between 300 to 600 words. Make sure you put HTML because I want to put it in my blog. And the output, and this is very, very important, I want you to format in exactly this way. I want you to put the title of the article exactly here. String is just the content of the title, the subject, right? And then the content. What is the article itself? Put it like this. Why do I put it in some kind of technical JSON? Why does it look like this? Because later on I can manipulate it in any way I want. I can use it very simply, and I can guarantee that I have a certain format and it can go to my website in a certain format very, very easily. So what I did here is parse JSON. If you remember before, I took the title, which is the subject, and the content, which is the actual article itself, and I saved it very easily in a JSON, so I can separate the title and the content, and I can use it very easily. Then I went to ChatGPT again, and I created an image, a banner image for that article. I clicked here, and I specified the model, which is DALL-E 3, for example, which creates images only. And I specified, I want you to make a blog post image that is simple in a certain way, and I want you to make it based on the title, the subject of the article, and I clicked on save. Once I did that, now I have to grab the file. I have to download the file that just got created via HTTP get a file, and I specified, if I click right here, the actual URL of the file that just got created by ChatGPT or OpenAI's DALL-E 3, which creates images. And the last one is I went to Shopify. I granted authority for Shopify, and I specified that I want you to post on the specific blog, the title, the content itself, and of course the image right here. I'm going to go to image, the data from the image which I just downloaded right here, and I click on save, and if I run it correctly, it should run. You're going to see all of these right here. Now, one more thing. Once you start creating your own automations, you're going to notice that you have to do more complex things. For example, these breaks. What are these breaks, for example? If I run systems or automations, sometimes there's some technical issues. The system is down, there's some problem. Breaks are a way for you to recognize that there is an issue and try to repeat multiple times in case it was some temporary issue. You can try to repeat, or you can try to store all of the information, or you can try to use it in a different way. So what do you need to do in order to do a break? You need to first of all go to settings and make sure that you can store some kind of issue. For example, allow storing of incomplete executions. If something happens that's incomplete, first of all, save it in your memory, and then you click here and you can retry many times. For example, I already created one article and it's running, it's trying to create the second one, but if it breaks, you can try to retry many, many times. Okay, so now it created 2 articles and it went well. I'm going to click on stop, and you understand the point. Now in my blog, I'll have 2 new articles. But I can actually specify I want 200, just let it run. It'll run for 20 minutes and it's good to go. If you click here on the break, for example, I can try to retry 3 times, and every time I retry, I'll wait about 15 minutes between the retries. I hope this makes sense to you, all of these examples. I hope you understand make.com. And most importantly, if you have any questions about this, or you have a specific scenario, join us on YouTube, on our website, on social media, ask questions, and we're here to answer you guys. Much, much appreciated. Hope you join us for next videos, and we'll be making many more make.com automations for you guys. Take care.